Good afternoon, y'all. So let's go ahead and get started with our devotional, and then we'll do the Bible next. So today is week 4, day 1. Habit 3, she stays open to the movement of God. Whatever course you decide upon, there's always someone to tell you that you're wrong. There are always difficulties arising which tempt you. To believe that your critics are right to map out a course of action and follow it to an end requires courage. Ralph Waldo Emerson. What to read this week? Ruth 2:15 through 23. And our quick quitting verse for the day is, "Draw near to God, and He will draw near to you." And the chapter is called When He's Close. It's 3:38 a.m. I stare at the clock, and something inside me whispers, "You should get up." I toss, turn, and wrestle with my sleep-deprived thoughts for a few minutes before I finally climb out of bed. Downstairs, I turn on the coffee pot and sit down in the white chair. Opening my journal, these words pour out of my parched soul. God, I miss you. Life has been moving at a warp speed lately. Work has been busy for both me, my husband, and me. Our 3 girls' lives are full and sometimes always need something. The truth is, I would pay a lot of money for 28 hours in a day, but mostly in this stretched season of life, I'm experienced how it happens, how people move far from God. It's not always intentional. The kids are sick, so church is missed. Carpool has to start earlier the next morning, leaving no time for quiet prayer. Bodies need exercise. Reading the Bible gets pushed aside. Meals must be prepared, so worship becomes secondary. Reports and projects have to be finished. You get the idea. The list goes on and on of what can keep us from the closeness of God. I understand these struggles all too well, and I'm finding there is a great danger in these stretched times of life. We can miss being with God, but we can also miss the movement of God is doing in our lives. Missing God either way is tragic and threatening to our souls that long to thrive with God. The third habit we see lived out in the life of Ruth, the woman who didn't quit, is habit 3. She stays open to the movement of God. What does staying open to the movement of God look like in your life? For me, it's learning to live a life of surrender and humility. I have plans, I have dreams, I have hopes. While I've seen the faithfulness of God through abundance of circumstances in my life, there are still many things I'm in holding pattern on. There are people I need to see healed from disease. There are places in my heart longs to go and serve God. There are things I don't know how to work out just yet. When we can't see our God at work, doubting His existence and His promises become much easier. But when a woman decides she's going to stay open to His movement, even when she can't see what He's doing, something powerful happens. We've already seen Ruth display this in several ways. Can you think of a few ways? Ruth has lived out a surrender and humility. Here are a few ways I saw Ruth staying open to God's movement. She made the commitment to stay with Naomi, even though she had just no glimpse of a hopeful future with her. Moving to a strange city with new people and a bitter mother-in-law, she didn't seem to express a fear of the unknown. Ruth got to work in the field, which just so happens to be the right one, even though she doesn't know a soul out there. I get what it's like to want to control the outcome of life in a certain degree. That are many things we can control. List 3 things you can control in your life right now. A few things I'm in control of is my reactions, my decisions, and my movements. Read Ruth 2:15-19. What does Naomi ask Ruth in verse 19? Ruth 2:15 through 19. As she got up to glean, Boaz gave other orders to his men. Even if she gathers among the sheaves, don't embarrass her. Rather pull out some stalks for her from the bundles and leave them for her to pick up. Don't rebuke her. So Ruth gleaned in the field until evening. Then she threshed the barley she had gathered, and it amounted to about an ephah. She carried it back to town, and her mother-in-law saw how much she had gathered. Ruth also brought out and gave her what she had left over. She had eaten enough. Her mother-in-law asked her, "Where did you glean to today? Where did you work? Blessed be the man who took notice of you." Then Ruth told her mother-in-law about the one at whose place she had been working. "The name of the man I work with today is Boaz," she said. We see that Naomi also had nothing to do with the field Ruth ended up in. It's not like Naomi hoped for a pharmacy. Naomi hoped on. So Boaz was the most eligible bachelor in town and convinced Ruth to get out in his field. Learning to stay open to the movement of God is hard. It requires a deeper sense of trust and belief in Him than I think we may naturally have, but the quick quitting verse today, James 4:8, offers us a powerful promise for this process. What are some clues we've seen in Ruth's story so far that she was a woman who had drawn near to God? How close to God do you feel right now? Check the response that best fits you. Super close, I've never felt more connected to Him. Pretty far away, I've had times in my life I felt closer to Him. Somewhere in the middle, I feel close to Him, but I'd like to feel closer. To stay open to God's movement, we have to know what His movement feels like, and if I've learned anything about God's movement over my life, it's that the movement of God is one of constant change but consistent pattern. Throughout the Bible, we see a consistent pattern of the unveiling of the character of God. Read the following verses and write out which characters of God they reveal. Psalms 20:6. Psalms 20:6. Surely goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Psalms 34:8. Taste and see that the Lord is good, and blessed is the man who takes refuge in Him. Proverbs 15:3. The eyes of the Lord are everywhere, keeping watch on the wicked and the good. Romans 11:33. Oh, the depth of the riches of the wisdom of the knowledge of God. How unsearchable His judgments and His paths beyond tracing out. When God is close to us, His character is constantly built within us. Learning to stay open to His movement is one of the hardest lessons we will ever become. Students of what lessons we will ever become students of. But when we do, we will become closer to Him, filled with His character, and able to fulfill the assignments He has given us.